you can lead a community to Reddit, but you can't make them solve a puzzle. I don't
Can't
know.
make them post.
You can't yeah, you can lead a guy to a computer, but you can't make him post on Reddit. I'm Emmy,
I'm Annie.
and this week we're playing Animal Well.
But before we talk about that, we can get into some news. So, I only have a couple of items I wanted to talk about before getting into it because otherwise it's just, more layoffs and closures galore to talk
I
about.
was gonna say, are they depressing?
Well, no, actually.
Oh, okay.
But they are a little odd. I don't have like entirely good things to say about them. So the
Okay.
first thing I wanted to talk about, this was reported on IGN and other places, but the source I was looking at was IGN. So GTA 6 is debuting an extended look at the game's gameplay on August 27th, exclusively on Netflix. Like it's going to premiere on Netflix and then
Right.
6 hours later be posted on YouTube.
It's really funny to do like a console exclusive, but the console is Netflix and it's for 6 hours and it's content.
Right. So it's not really that exclusive of a premiere. I just thought it was interesting to note because it's clear that Netflix is desperate for some of the video game space viewership, whatever you want to call it, and GTA 6 is poised to be a very huge hit, but they're not that interested in it, I guess, if they're only going to have the premiere for 6 hours, and also not that interested in being in the game space when they're also, closing slash selling studios that they've bought up left and right. Like, I don't
Right.
know what games they have personally released that they've ever really put enough weight behind, but they are happy to siphon off some of the GTA viewership.
Maybe they're trying to breadcrumb us. Like maybe they're playing hard to get where they're like, I'm not like emotionally available to commit to being in the game space, but I don't want to let this fish off the hook yet. So
Oh
I'm gonna
god.
like bring you back every so often.
Yeah, well, they picked the wrong game if they wanted either of us on the hook about that, because I will not be watching the gameplay thing on YouTube or Netflix or otherwise, but I'm sure plenty of other people will.
What if I take a turn and become like a GTA freak? What if I get really into it?
I mean, I was kind of wondering, I don't want to pay for it, so if anyone wants to give me a code, let me know. But I was thinking it would be kind of funny if I played it and like or if we both did and then talked about our journey with it as people who have never cared about GTA and have never planned on caring. Um maybe our opinions are the ones that really matter here.
Yeah, they're trying to expand their audience.
The other bit of news that you might find funny or not is that Roblox shares have declined 70% in the
Oh,
second
I saw
quarter.
that. I saw that. I saw that.
But the quote from the opening, this is from gamesindustry.biz, the first sentence in it also just had me reeling because the stock market is so fake. It's like it's a skittish pony because the reason it dropped 70% is you giggling about the
Sorry, I'm just
pony.
thinking about like a bullish market, a bearish market, and a skittish pony market.
Well, you'll see why. It's Roblox shares have declined 70% after second quarter results showed monetization was 2% below company guidance, which impacted overall bookings. They are making 2% less money than they thought they might. So stock dropped 70%.
Well, and then also, Roblox's, I don't know if there was their response to this or because they already were like, oh, it's down 2%. They're like, we're not going to share estimates for the rest of our fiscal year.
Yeah, don't worry though. They're still going to keep investing in AI. That was also in the article about how their costs are actually going to go up because of the AI infrastructure they're
Sure.
building out. Of course, but in the long run it'll save money. Don't you worry. Don't you
Right.
worry. I had a good chuckle about that, and I was like, Emmy is gonna want to know if she doesn't know already.
Yeah, I saw that.
Anyway, that's all the news that I had for today. I would like to introduce us to today's game, which I'm very excited to get to talk about because I've just been sitting siloed playing it obsessively all week. Today we are going to be talking about Animal Well.
Yay.
So, Animal Well is a puzzle platformer game with Metroidvania influences published in May 2024. It was solo developed by Billy Basso, which he started as a hobby project in 2017 outside of his day to day work as a game developer for studios like NetherRealm. It is a 2D pixel art game, which, shocker on this podcast, I do feel like we have to stop me from wanting to play 2D pixel art games more often, but here we are with another one. So it's a 2D pixel art game with more complicated visual elements like scan lines in it that wouldn't have exactly been possible with the technology of original pixel art games. And it takes place in a dimly lit, watery stone realm where animals watch from the shadows with their eyes shining. You play as a little blob with no name that can jump but not much else, and the tutorial elements are minimal. You discover your goals and abilities naturally through exploration. Billy Basso has described the game as having several layers, the first layer being the goal of collecting 4 flames throughout the map, collecting tools for puzzle solving as you go. After that quest is done, you gain more tools that recontextualize the map and open up new pathways. Basso said in interviews that he took inspiration for the visuals from walking around in his neighborhood in Chicago, shout out the city that I live in, and he said that it was partly from seeing tacky lawn animals and like overgrown lots and city lots and things, and different things like fountains. So I actually want to touch on that more because learning that fact was very interesting in looking at the map anew in another new layer. Basso has also cited influences like early NES games, but also more recent indie puzzlers like The Witness from 2016 and Tunic from 2022. And I definitely did think of Tunic in particular when it came to certain aspects and layers of this one. I forget, I mean, have you played Tunic in full?
No, I have not played Tunic, but I'm
Okay.
familiar with Tunic through you playing it and hearing a lot about it.
Yes, okay. He also coded the game from scratch with his own engine, which we'll also come back to because Emmi, I think as a developer, you're gonna feel insane listening to some of the ways he accomplished things because it made me feel insane from my limited experience. But also, it affected kind of the vibe of the game in ways that you wouldn't understand came from the engine or the way that things worked until it's explained, and I thought that was really cool. So Basso first showcased the game in 2019 at the International Game Developers Association and then continued working solo until he wanted to find help with publishing because he has said in interviews that the business and marketing aspects are absolutely not what appeals to him about game making. So Dan Edelman was brought on in 2021 for helping with those aspects of development. He also helped Axiom Verge 1 and 2 get published. So then enter a YouTuber, Video Game Donkey, real name Jason Gastro. He and his wife Leah had recently founded Big Mode, an indie game publishing company, and so they partnered with Basso to publish the game. And it was also Big Mode's first published game. Animal Well gained traction from other showcases, including a Day of the Devs showcase in 2022, and then it was finally released in 2024, which is around when we became aware of it, but we didn't play it in depth until now. Also of note, Balatro dev Local Thunk said that his personal game of the year for 2024 was Animal Well, which I thought was really sweet. I mean, we actually tried to play this earlier in our podcasting careers, but you ended up bouncing off of it at first. Can you tell me why?
Yeah, so I figured out what it was, or I feel pretty confident I know what it was. So I know, well, I obviously I knew it hurt my eyes,
Oh.
and when we were trying to find something to play for this episode because I don't know, we discussed one, it wasn't really working for me, and I was like, just picked up my Switch 2 and opened Animal Well, and I was like, it doesn't hurt my eyes. You know why I think it didn't hurt my eyes?
You didn't
Because
change
I
any
had this,
settings?
no, I had the
Okay.
Switch OLED, and the Switch 2 does not have an OLED screen.
Oh, so was it just too bright and sharp?
Yeah, I think like the colors were too saturated. Because I like seeing it on Switch 2, I
Huh.
was like, this doesn't bother me at all now. Like it, you know, but on the Switch OLED, like I mean, I think even if I had like turned the brightness way down, like the saturate, I probably would have had to play with, I don't even know settings that I could change or not. Like the saturation of the colors on the OLED like really hurt my eye. Like it was hard to look
Huh.
at, and I was like, it's like a frustrating enough game because there's so many puzzle elements that I was like, with that and my eyes hurting, I just can't do it. So that was like a really good accidental, like I just pulled it up when I was looking around for things that we already had to play, and I was
Mm.
like, well, that's great. I
Problem
I
solved.
had played like a little bit of it until I had bounced off, so I like went back into my save and I was like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. But I feel like I finally hit my flow state in it like last night, which is kind of a bummer. I didn't like get
Mm.
into it until earlier. So, yes, I'm excited to talk about it, and I feel like I have a much greater appreciation for it now that it's not actively frying my eyes.
Yeah, that's great news. I can't believe you're like, it's too blindingly beautiful. I couldn't look at it like the sun. But I'm glad to know that the actual downgrade in screen quality was good for it.
Yeah.
I had an experience where I've been playing it fully with like the scan lines turned on, but in the visual options you can turn those off, which keeps it like a
Hmm.
more straight pixel art vibe. And I was looking at most screenshots in the interviews that I was reading from Basso about it and thinking, man, like these colors look so much more beautiful on the screen than they do on my Switch because I was playing it on Switch. And then I partly realized it's because all of those screenshots don't have the scan lines in it. When I
Yeah.
turned off the scan line, suddenly it was a lot more brighter and saturated feeling on my Switch. And I like the more lo-fi contrivance of it actually because it also helps the world feel more mysterious.
Hmm.
So, going off of that, do you want to talk a little bit about the aesthetics of the game first in general? Or would you like to go off of something else?
No, let's talk about the aesthetics of the game. Do you want me to say anything about it, or did you want to say something about
Nah,
it?
I was just gonna go in with a I love it. I love how it looks. I love how it
Yeah.
feels. I love the creepy vibes. Basso talked a lot in interviews about wanting to make you feel the excitement but also unease of exploring an unknown place, and I think that he achieved both of those things so well, especially when it comes to being uneasy, because I don't know, where you grew up, Emmy, were there a lot of like animals around in your neighborhood?
No. I grew up in a suburb that had no town center and
Mm-hmm.
no real nature. I mean, we had like dry grasses
Okay.
and I
I mean,
guess
that's still
rabbits and prairie dogs, and that's kind of it.
those count. Like, I grew up in an area that was like very farm heavy and definitely like rural suburban. So we had like herds of deer in my yard, also like skunks and raccoons and foxes. The feeling of like walking outside at night and suddenly there's an animal there and its eyes are like reflecting at you, or when you're driving at night, like this game I felt captured that so well. So I was thinking of my own childhood in the woods with the deer, especially with all
Mm.
the animals that populate this area. I felt like the echoes were palpable when you were in a like stone area with water in it. There were also like weird moments of hush and very atmospheric music if there's ever any music. Is the sound design was really cool.
The sound is interesting, yeah, because there's not really music. There's maybe a little bit, but it's very low and it's more like the ambient, like echoing and stuff. I was gonna say, even before you said echoing, even though there wasn't a lot of wildlife where I grew up and it was very suburban, it's interesting that you mentioned his inspiration because I do feel like this game feels like when you're a kid and you go in like a big, like concrete tube or like pipe,
Yeah.
like
Just
you're
like a
like
drain.
near like some creek that you like probably shouldn't be near that water.
Yeah.
Like you're like, I'm not supposed to go in here, but like, I don't know, let's explore this like pipe in here, and it's like a little unsettling, but also mostly like it's fun and playful.
Hmm. Yeah, I was really interested to hear that specifically like the area where he lives in Chicago. I don't know if he's in a particular neighborhood or like on the outskirts of the city in a suburb, but I was surprised to hear that that specifically affected the aesthetic because I could see it afterwards sublimated because you don't
Mhm.
look at it and think Chicago for
Chicago,
sure.
yeah.
Like, oh, partly I think it's genuinely the lack of red brick in the game because I
Hmm.
associate red brick so much with Chicago, but then I understood like the connection I immediately made was like across from, if people are familiar with Hexy Coffee in the city, that's just like a really good coffee shop. There's this not a abandoned lot, but there's this overgrown lot across the street that's like fenced off with a rusty fence where the grass has grown like quite wild to the point where it's a bit like a prairie in there, and like a crumbling brick building that is supposed to be demolished and turned into new apartments. And I was like, oh, Animal Well feels like being there at night, like on a summer
Yeah.
night where you don't know when other living creatures might loom out of the dark to see you. But that's another thing that I enjoy about the environment. I know a lot of some of these seemingly innocuous things end up being a hidden puzzle later, but there's so many animals around in the background or whatever that just like don't care about you. Like you're
Mhm.
clearly in their space, they're not in yours. Basso talked about wanting to make the animals feel not anthropomorphic or cutesy, but like intelligences that are alien to you. And I really felt that came through as well. I was just so excited to
Yes.
read his interviews because he put into words the feeling that I had definitely already been feeling as I played.
Yeah. Something I really like and was like appreciating more and more is the subtleness of the backgrounds and how there's like environments change, and it's like this game is both like really hard, but then it's really hard to like look up things about, but then or it feels really hard, but then you get to exactly what you're looking for because you do have enough detail to describe it, because you like as the sort of areas change, they're kind of tagged with different animals in the background, almost like cave paintings or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like that. It feels very subtle, but also orients you.
Yeah, the game guides you in its design really well toward the things, as much as there's hidden stuff as well, right? Like every nook and cranny, because it's a dimly lit game on purpose, there could be like a secret passage in the shadows. It also guides you really well toward the things that do matter, especially for the first
Mm-hmm.
layer of the journey of finding tools and getting the fires, which I thought was so nice because it helped me trust my own instincts a lot
Mm-hmm.
as well. Like I would get to a room where I wasn't going to throw my head against the wall about a puzzle usually because I was like, I'm in a new area and the game will show me what I need to know to figure this out. So
Mm-hmm.
instead I would follow and go forward, and then yes, usually a new tool was revealed that I could then use to figure out what to do in the previously completely frustrating unknown area.
Okay, so well, I had two things. One, I wanted to call out what a nice job I think he does of foreshadowing puzzle solutions. And
Mm.
like, thinking about there's one room I entered where like there's blocks that are triggered by switches. In that room, it's just like the blocks are repeatedly moving because there's a hedgehog going around in circles
Yeah.
pressing those buttons. And then in the next room, you also have blocks with the same symbols and switches, but you need to trigger those switches. So it does like a really nice diegetic way of giving you hints about that without it being tutorialized or like told to
Hmm.
you outright. I personally found like I didn't feel that guided through it, and I think it's just because I like had bounced off of it, came back, and then like I had a key to something and I missed where I would have unlocked it, so I was like going around and around in different
Uh,
places. Story I wanted to tell about being led to find a solution has now escaped my brain.
do you remember what area it was in or what tool it might have been involved?
Oh, I remember. So it was in, I don't know, I can't even say like the lower right of the map because I don't even know that that's accurate to the whole map. But it was where there's a bunch of like mouse, like ghost mouse heads like rolling around. There is an area where you like flip a switch and it basically blocks off the way you came. And I kept being like, I don't know, I can't solve this thing. Like, I must need something else. But I just had to trust it because I was like, I literally could not, there's no way I can get out. Like, I was like,
Hmm.
oh, maybe I need a firecracker, and I ran out of them. But I was like, there's just no chance that this game would let me get into this state if I didn't need to figure it out. And what I needed to do was just noticed that the little ghost birds that I was flying on, when you cross into the light, they fade so you can jump through them. Like you can get past them. And it took me like going back and forth a couple times because it's quite subtle.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you need to either accidentally experience it or, like, notice it. But that was definitely an experience I had of, like, if I can keep going, then I probably don't need to solve this puzzle right now, but, like, if I can't keep going, I have to be able to solve this puzzle with the tools that I have.
Yeah, it took me a minute. I remember that specific puzzle, especially because it's a room I've revisited since getting some new tools, and that one was really interesting. And I'm now in the phase where that philosophy, which was very true for the beginning of the game, now no longer applies
Mhm.
because after you beat the first layer, new tools come to light, and suddenly a lot of places that were impassable are now passable, or I should go back to figure out how they could be. So it is again like a recontextualization. And it's also really fun that you mentioned that the backgrounds are very like subtle and cool in ways because they then come into play in the second layer. It's a literal peeling back of like
Mhm.
what you can see and what you suddenly can more see later on. It's very cool. Quick question, why didn't you restart fully?
Just wasn't sure exactly how long I had spent playing the game. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
it could have been an hour, it could have been, like, I guess I probably could have looked up I don't know if I could have because I was on my Switch too, but I just was like, I don't know how long. I wasn't that frustrated. I was like, I found other things to do. I like had solved
Yeah.
a puzzle that I remember having a hard time with that made me bounce off. I like solved
Yeah.
that pretty quickly. So I just like was able to get back in it and get going. I just wasn't sure. If I knew it was like only an hour, I
Yeah.
probably would have restarted from the
Wait,
beginning.
quick question. This just made me realize the purpose of an item that I picked up that I hadn't realized had done anything. Can you open your game and tell me what you can see on the pause screen? And if there's a
Yes.
timer on it?
I have like number of minutes since last save, but I don't have like a ticking timer.
Oh my god. Yes, this illuminates what just happened. Because after, after you do the four, like the main quest, like the four flames you have to pick up from different parts of the map, and then you do another area that opens up, a bunch of different new, fun, interesting, and mysterious things appear. In one of those mysterious things, there's an enormous cuckoo clock. And in a hidden area near the cuckoo clock, there's a squirrel that drops a stopwatch. I picked up the stopwatch and then was like, that's weird. That's not in my inventory at all as an item that I can use. What was the point of that? But do you know what it did? It made a game played timer appear that for some reason keeps going when it's paused. And I had noticed that, but I thought like, oh, I guess that was there all along and I just wasn't paying attention. But no, that's what the stopwatch did. There are apparently some secrets of the game that only can be unlocked in speedrunning aspects,
Uh-huh.
which is never ever something I give a shit about. So that's just not going to happen for me. But I guess that's the point of the stopwatch once you've done round one.
I was going to say that I love when game developers play with aspects of the game that we usually think of as outside the game, but are still parts of the game. So, like a pause screen, or, games which take advantage of the fact that the game is an executable on your computer and, like, reaches outside of the confines of that. I really like when games play with that. With the things that are usually designed to fade into the background and to not matter. I love when they play with I love when they play with not just the content but the form of the game.
Yes. Speaking of, there are actually two things, and I guess we're more talking into gameplay and puzzles and aspects versus the aesthetics now. There are two very intentionally meta aspects of the game I want to talk about. One that is a late game puzzle that actually you need at least 49 other players to help you solve. Do you remember have you passed by a large bunny mural? A pixel art bunny
Yes.
mural?
I've been wondering what that's about.
It's for a secret bunny collection thing later. You can only start solving it once you get two special late game tools. And even then, you can't solve it on your own because what happens is it only reveals a section of what you're ending up able to change the mural to. It gives you the power, you get the power to change the pixels of the mural to your liking, and then you also get shown a 4x4 square of part of what you need to change it to. It turns out that that's personal to your game, and a bunch of other people need to share their pixels. and needed to put it together to figure out what to do to unlock the bunny that unlocks when you change the mural, which is insane. I do love that. That's one of the things that I looked up how to do because you genuinely can't do that by yourself, and it was killing me that I couldn't figure out what was going on with the pixel mural. So that was meta. God knows how people ended up figuring that out. I want to read more about the process, but apparently it did happen faster than Billy Basso expected. Yeah, people are smart.
Yeah, never underestimate a bunch of weirdos on Reddit.
Exactly. The other thing that I wanted to point out was something that has definitely been discovered. I don't know how this works when people play it on PC. Like a couple days ago, so 13 hours, 14 hours into my playthrough, I was wiping something off of my Switch in handheld mode. I was like, there's some shit on my screen. And it moved the vines. It has touch controls. When you poke at your game, your finger becomes a little wind that moves the plants. And I don't know if that's like applicable in any particular puzzle, but I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck? And there were several moments like that, not just this kind of meta one. But yeah, the thing outside the game is you. And and they dragged me in physically anyway. I thought that was really cool. Did you figure that out yet? That's so I was like,
no. That's really cool. Yeah. I also love this is like the thing that we get from indie games that I feel like a lot of times are over designed for in like AAA games, which is like the community aspects. Like you can't force a community. Like you can lead a community to Reddit, but you can't make them solve a puzzle. I don't
can't
know.
make them post.
You can't. Yeah, you can lead a guy to a computer, but you can't make him post on Reddit. And I don't want to say like that necessarily this has to do with like the publishing aspects, but I just think when a team is able to like do a thing that they're really passionate about and they have these like kooky ideas that take time and energy to implement, those are the things that like when you're in a large corporate team, it's like we need to manage scope. We're cutting this like extra delightful feature. And I think like those are the things that make games interesting and build communities. And I don't know, I just love I love that even though I'm someone who does not actively participate in communities, I like getting to see people building
I mean,
communities
this
around these
podcast
things.
is first off a gaming community aspect
That's
thing.
true. That's a good point.
So you're not participating, but I get what you mean. In order to make a game that has a community around it, you have to make something that people want to talk to each other about. And
Yeah.
as a big fan of some AAA things like Baldur's Gate 3, like that has a rabid fan community, and partly it's just because people cared so much about the characters or their stories or little details that got put in by that massive team working for a while. Like that, I guess it wasn't even that big of a team, but that's why people have come together to talk about it. And puzzling games do really lend themselves well to a community because people get stuck and want to ask each other for help, or they discover something and they have the same impulse I have about a game where like I want to run to you to talk about it when we're playing it together. And because it's just so cool. And as for like the indie games aspect being part of, I think the way this one turned into a community thing though is because it's so clearly like more than other things that are billed as like the efforts of one guy. This really was for years one dude working on this project. And he said that first off, he really likes working on his own because he is able to follow his own tangents and ideas. And it also is a thing where when he got interested in something, he just kind of added it. Like you could totally see Tunic is a game that I love, and part of the reason Tunic was so cool and kind of mind blowing for me is that it does have a point in the game where it recontextualizes everything that you've seen. Like there's a little like explosion that happens with a mechanic that you might not have discovered. You could discover organically, but very unlikely that you would. And then you're like, holy shit, and you go back. And it's kind of wild to me that maybe for the first 5 years of development, he was working on his own thing and it was maybe more standard puzzly platformer, and then he got to Tunic and was like, oh, what if I added another layer where suddenly everything is contextualized? And then what if I added another layer? And it seems like he was able to do that because he was working doggedly on one thing for so long, and then it was his project, so he could do it again in the next like few years of development too. So yeah, first off, what a journey on this one. And this is the type of game where I would love to dissect this creator's brain. Like, I think I texted you. I was like, I need to know what's wrong with this person in in the most complimentary way possible, because that's the type of art that sticks with me all the time. Like where the person made it in like an almost fanatic way, whether or not that's healthy.
Yeah, there's something really interesting about like design. Like, mm, these things are so painstakingly designed, and so are like, other big AAA games, whatever, different games are also painstakingly designed. But there's something about how natural the design feels and how much it fades into the background in a way, or like feels like it's internal or aligned with your play, that is really impressive to me. Like it's like they're both
Mm.
like painstakingly designed, and one feels constraining sometimes, or I don't know what the one is. I don't mean for it to just be like, oh, big games versus indie games, but I don't know. Some games can have like things that feel like it's like, oh, they like clearly built out this whole thing and I'm just kind of checking the boxes to go through it. And then there's this other thing where it's like they built this whole thing and you can't even see it until down the road, or maybe you'd never even see it. Can I talk about my paper really fast?
Please.
Um, so my paper, which is supposed to come out in November, which is very exciting, my first paper. One of the findings I really liked from it was about multiplayer play of single player games, because I talked to a bunch of couples who play video games together, and a lot of them play single player games together. And one of my findings was that games that have a lot of mental work that can be done in the game work really well for multiplayer play of a single player game, because you can take that work outside of the game. You don't have to both be providing like physical input into the game. You can delineate, you can like demarcate work for like one player outside of the game and one player like in the game. And in that way, you're playing together, even though technically it's designed for a single player, which is also like a very exciting, for me, idea about like what you can do with game design. Is like, hey, if you want to make a multiplayer game, you actually don't necessarily need to support two inputs. You can support one physical input and one mental input. And so I feel like that's also happening with the community aspect of like, it's because people have this mental work they can take away from the game. And like, yeah, I don't know. We talk about archiving, and sometimes I think about like, how do we archive like the community conversations and like interactive experiential aspects of playing games?
Going back to your comments about all of this work that goes in behind the scenes, I forget exactly what you said that made me think of it, but behind the scenes where you don't quite know how it works, but it does come into play. I actually want to go back to showing you some of the info about the engine and what Basso did to code this thing.
Yay, I wanted to ask about that.
Yes, I'm going to send you a passage that he. I'm just going to have you read the passage, and you can read it out loud if you want. We can cut the bits of it, but I kind of want to hear you squawk when you hear a certain thing. So I would like you to read it out loud. Okay, so I just texted you a question and answer from Game Developers 2022 interview with Billy Basso. So please read the question and then the paragraph.
Okay, from game developer. How did you develop and hone your animation techniques to make the denizens of Animal Wells so brilliantly unsettling? And Billy Basso said, the animation techniques in Animal Well were sort of developed alongside that game's engine. I have every sprite in the game on one giant sprite sheet, and very early on I was manually defining them all by entering the UV coordinates straight into C++ code. So animations at that point were very basic, and sprite strips were just drawn directly on the sheet in Photoshop. Since then, I've added the ability to ingest data from Asprite, which is the program I currently use to do traditional 2D animation. I've also added a lot of functionality for particle effects and procedurally drawing geometry. Usually, when I'm animating a character, I use a mix of all those things. Also, early on, I structured the engine so all the gameplay code is in its own DLL and can be recompiled at any time while the game is running. So, a lot of animation gets created in a tight iteration loop of creative coding.
There's actually a next paragraph that has the part that actually made me squawk out loud. So
Uh
please
huh.
read this next bit as well.
Hmm. As far as making them unsettling, I think the procedural aspects play a big part in that. I think having a code drive animations often makes things look uncanny. For instance, with the ghost cat in the trailer, all the limbs are animated independently through code, along with multiple segments of the body. They are all following their own slightly different paths as the creature follows the player, causing the body to stretch and bend in very unnatural ways. I try to have as many things be dynamic like that. I'm also a programmer by trade, so doing these things this way feels most natural to me. There are also a bunch of popular animation tips that I've been actively avoiding using, things like squash and stretch and screen shake. I see almost every indie game using these to make things look exciting and fun. I've been trying to challenge myself to make animations expressive in different ways.
The fact that the animations are in like the code, like, and then this will move like this and this will move like this makes me insane. I'm glad that works for Billy Basso, but oh my god, like the he has experience in Unity, so I could see how he already knows like what he wants to avoid. But in like the basic Unity class that I've taken in the past, doing animation loops was thankfully the easiest thing because there's like built-in stuff to just like it
Mhm.
does that stuff for you. The using coordinates on a big sprite sheet is so funny. Like, I don't know if this impacts efficiency or how these things run, but it is also crazy how uncanny that and cool that effect actually ends up being. Have you encountered the ghost cat slash dog in your game yet? Yeah,
Yeah.
the ghost. It's supposed to be a dog, but everybody kept calling it a cat, so he has started calling it a cat as well because it does look more cat-like.
Huh.
But yeah, a big ghost cat that's going all like and yelling at you when you take the disc out of the statue that appears and chases you until you put
Mm.
the disc or a disc back. That is also actually the challenge that I texted you about, where I was like, I can't believe the only way out is through on this. Because there's a section where you have to remove the disc from the statue, like the fake disc, and bring it somewhere else way across the map. And once you succeed
Uh-huh.
and put it in another slot, then the ghost stops chasing you. But I was so stressed out. So anyway, that was part of his coding challenge that made me crazy. What do you think of this as a software engineer? These bits he's revealed.
I know what's wrong with him, and it's that he's a programmer. Because all of this makes sense to me.
No, you're
I'm
like,
like,
there's nothing wrong with
that's how
it.
I would like. So it's so clear that this was a project that he like played with for a long time because like it's so clear the way people who are programmers like not necessarily as like an inherent trait, but there are some programmers out there. They really like programming. They really like thinking about how things work. And so their idea of fun is to like recreate things from scratch that there are already solutions for. I think these are the types of programmers I'm gonna slot myself into this group as well, who like fucking hate AI because it like took away all the fun parts of programming. Because I'm like, oh, I could totally see like I would never do this because I don't do projects on my own, but I'm like, making your own game engine sounds fun and interesting, and I've thought about it before. Like, it's because like when I learned to like the first game engine I ever used was like a learning engine that was like some professor made somewhere that's like Java. Like it doesn't have all the bells and whistles. Like game engines are crazy pieces of software because they're like imagine if like I don't know, it's like Word, but like I guess like Microsoft 365, but like 12,000 times more complicated because it's like they put all of the things you could possibly need to do to put a game together in the engine, and it's like the fact that so much work happens like in the engine, or like the like UI UX for a game engine is kind of wild that it's like one piece of software. Like they're really complicated. So it kind of makes sense to me that he would want to pick apart the different pieces and be like, can I implement this from scratch? And like the sprite sheet stuff, actually, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like that's like how like at the root of I guess not all game engines run this way, but like if you do like RPG Maker, you do just have a big sprite sheet, and the way you do it is by providing the coordinates. But like the fact that he was putting them directly into C++ code is hilarious. Like he wasn't like storing them is super funny.
He actually did, in the rest of the interview, go on to explain exactly the programming brain that you just described a little bit. So first off, I'll make sure you have the link and everybody has the link so you can read this. But he did say that he like was developing toy game engines for himself, like on the side
Mm.
at his day job, and then partly this project started as a way to like test some of the toy game engines that he was working on, and then it ended up making an engine to serve the game rather than a game to serve an engine. But something else that he said, the biggest challenge of working this way would probably be that I more often have to context switch from developing technology and trying to use it creatively. He said there have been a lot of times where I'm just trying to make a new character for the game and I wish my engine could do a particular thing. This will then lead to a week-long detour where I am just developing a new system instead of content. But
Yeah.
since it was a solo project, he could just do it, which is really lovely.
Right.
I love the like everybody should have like the rambling freedom to just explore their project that way. And yeah, not take like I don't know, if they enjoy the thinking, not take the shortcuts of tools like AI to get rid of that thinking. Because it really sounds like the technical stuff informed the creative stuff and vice versa.
Yeah. I love what he says about I think like procedural generation of things is really interesting, and specifically like distinguish that from AI because it's sort of a different kind of procedural it's less procedural, I guess. Like I think or we've talked about this before too, right? Again, going back to the conversation of AI being like could be a really cool thing if it didn't have all this shit attached to it, right? Of like, you know, what an interesting and rich ground for like exploring what amalgamations and like a abstraction and like randomness. So I think like that the dynamic generation is something that I'm always very interested in art and like me- mechanical pieces. And so you can see like there's that aspect of it in both his art of the visuals and also in his desire to like take apart the pieces of a game engine. And it makes me think about like one of my favorite projects in college, even though it made me cry to the point that I had like tear stained notes in my notebook,
Oh god.
was in my theory of programming languages class. We built not a compiler, but an interpreter for the lambda calculus in, gosh, what did we use? Lisp, I think. Anyways, but that was fucking fun as hell. Like even though I cried because I was stressed out about like getting my project in, I think that was like maybe hands down that class was maybe one of the most informative classes I ever took, because it was like how does uh from a mathematical perspective, like how does a programming language work? I didn't like that part as much because I don't like formal math. But then like what a fucking fun like experience it is to be like I have a stream of characters and each one of them means something different, and I need to like handle every one of those characters and develop rules for them. And like I love that.
Wow. Next, I do want to kind of get into the layers because
Hmm.
I have remaining puzzles and things that I'm still working on and excited to work on. But Emmy, you did not get all four flames yet, right?
No. I, for reference, Annie has 50 eggs.
Oh, right. That's a side thing that you can collect up to 64 eggs in the game, and then that unlocks some other stuff post first credits.
Yeah, I think it's like a good analog for like progress in the game though, because I have 14 eggs.
Oh. But that does that mean that you got the flute?
Yes, I have the flute now because you get it after 8 eggs.
Cool, because that is important. The flute took me a second to figure out what I could do with that. I was like, I must be able to do something. The flute wakes up animals around you or puts them to sleep, and that is useful for certain puzzles. Did you figure out the warp song?
Yeah, because so the other thing the flute does is it like wakes up animals whose mouths you can like fast travel through. And then if you go to another part, there's like a frog, and he's like doing kind of a little dance. And he's like a frog or a fish or something in the
It's like a
water.
fish.
It's like
Yeah.
repeated. And for a long time, I was like, I have to jump in this creature's mouth, and it will take me somewhere.
I did not try to do
And then
that.
I
That's
like went
funny.
away and I was like, it's weird that you can have the flute. It's like kind of annoying actually that you have the flute and like you have to explicitly like exit out of having the flute. I was like, clearly you
Mhm.
can play like more than one thing, but it took me a while to realize that like directionally you can change the note. So then I was like, oh shit, and went back to the frog or fish or whatever doing a little dance. And I was like, now I know the song, and I was like, oh shit. I haven't actually really needed to use the warping yet, but I'm sure it will be more useful later.
That is beautiful, and it is useful. I ended up halfway figuring it out myself because
Mm-hmm.
I picked up immediately that you could like because I started like playing around with the tool immediately and realized you could do directional notes, and I was like, "Oh, this is going to unlock so much stuff later, I bet." So then of course I go down to that fish in the warp room and or in the fast travel room and was like, "So this guy's giving me directions, right?" And then I made the mistake of I guess I played the flute wrong. I was holding down the like Y button or something
Mm-hmm.
and playing the notes, but then that wouldn't register as anything. And I was like, I know I'm getting the notes right. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll get more information on this and come back later. It was when I was struggling with the ghost dog chasing me, where I was looking for tips to make that easier because I was dying. And then someone was like, why don't you just use the warp flute? And that's when I was like, what? Warp. So then the little like instructions were for the warp song said, make sure you press the button each time you play a new note. And I was like, okay, I get it. So I take half credit for that. But that was also a situation where I was like, I just needed that like little nudge in the right direction to be able to keep
Mm-hmm.
going on my own. So shout out
Mm-hmm.
to that person who was like, why aren't you using the warp flute? It's because I was being stupid. But thank you for the thank you for the hint. Um, I'm at a point in the game where there are more songs being revealed, but I think I'm playing them
Mm-hmm.
wrong again, so I'm probably gonna have to run to the like forums again to be like, what am I not understanding about how this works? It's actually like you're right to think of the eggs as a way to figure out how far you are in the game because
Mm-hmm.
so far the three tools that I've unlocked from that are things that have like basically like like opened up new areas that were previously impassable. So that is one metric, and then also the flames. Or actually, rather, have you beat the chameleon boss?
Does beating the chameleon boss mean like going past the chameleon boss, or is that separate?
There's a red one, and
No.
there's hedgehogs. Okay. After you do that, you get an item that unlocks a different area that unlocks that unlocks another item that then also changes the game and makes a lot of interesting things available to you. So I'm at that point.
Can I tell you what items I have?
Yes, please.
So I have the frisbee, the slinky, and the yo-yo, and the flute.
Cute. Okay.
Yeah.
So those are like the core things. That is actually brings me to another comment that I texted you about that I wanted to put a pin in, which is I really love how in many ways this thing feels like a metaphor for childhood. And
Mhm.
specifically you listing the tools reminded me of that because all of the tools in the game, most of the ones I've encountered, are childhood toys. But specifically the thing that I texted you is that it's reminding me of Pajama Sam, partly because
Right.
you've
Yeah, sorry, tell me more about that.
well, it's because the main character, in this case, a blob that's just referred to as player character, doesn't have a name or like a purpose, just is born from a plant and then stumbles into the world, has fallen into this mysterious kind of scary place. It's full of the dark, and it is in many ways about encountering the dark through the use of like familiar items that you know. And it is also about becoming like growing up and learning things and becoming more confident in how you interact with this strange and sometimes hostile environment. I really
And
like
also you're a
that
blob,
aspect.
like you're unformed, like
Yeah.
and you're seeing all these different animals and like what they do and how they live. And so it's like
Hmm.
what will this blob become?
The chosen animals are also funny to me because despite the Chicago influences, they're decidedly mostly not Chicago animals. Like there are dogs and cats and there are mice, which are pretty standard, but there's also kangaroos and capybaras and things that there's maybe a koala hanging in the background somewhere, which made me wonder if the dev was Australian, but he's not. There's chameleons.
Moo.
What
Or
other? I mean, oh,
ostrich?
there's
Emu or
ostriches and
ostrich?
yeah, ostriches and cranes, fish.
Ostrich scare the shit out of me. Not like in real life, just
In
like
real
in the
life or in the
game,
game?
I was like, ah!
Oh,
Because it's scary neck comes in the little holes like after you. Like, ugh.
wait, really?
Yeah.
I don't think I've encountered that. Where the hell is
Oh my
this?
god, it's so scary.
Where the hell is the ostrich hole?
Oh yeah, you have to like to get past an ostrich, you have to like go in these little like maze like holes and its head goes down there and its neck like cranes around the angles and it's so scary.
Maybe I have played this one and it just didn't scare me as much at the time. There is one that really scared me, which was the dachshund.
Yeah.
Because he
Dachshunds
starts
are scary.
the dachshund was burrowing. I don't know if you know this, but a dachshund is a badger hound. Like they were bred to
Yeah,
dig
they
into tunnels
hunt
and
badgers. That's why they're that shape is so they can go in badger holes and tear the shit out of them. Wait, can I tell you my story about a dachshund really quickly?
yeah, sure.
A dachshund in real life going in a badger
Yes.
hole. So the company that I used to work at, we were a dog friendly office, and our CEO had a miniature dachshund named Rick, like as in his full Christian name was Rick, but like short for Richard. But Richard was not
Oh
his
my
full
god.
name, but sometimes we called
Okay.
him that. And he just like wandered around and was king of the office. And then I had a backpack that was kind of like a almost like a lunch bag where it's like has a hole and then it folds over and clips. So like didn't zip shut. And one time I had my dog Maisie when she was a puppy there, and I had a toy in her backpack that I put away, and then Rick slithered his way into the hole in my backpack, got the toy out, and slithered out, all without me noticing, to find the toy that I had purchased for my puppy shredded to bits in an office.
I don't think dachshunds are nice, dude. I think they're maybe evil. I think that there's something bad in them.
Dachshunds are known for being like sometimes they're not the nicest, but he was like a pretty nice boy. He just like liked to tear toys apart, which is fine.
Yeah, I didn't like the dachshund in this game, and I don't tend to love them in real life either.
Things chasing you in holes are scary.
Yes, the kangaroo always scared the crap out of me when it bounded onto the scene, and they make a horrible noise. I don't think kangaroos make that noise in real life. Whatever noise is happening in game is horrible. There was another big animal that I'm used to it now, but sometimes an environmental hazard appears that you were not aware was going to happen. So there's a room that I'm still trying to figure out the how to avoid this, like the puzzle for it. But there's a room that's a long body of water, and halfway across the body of water there is a tiny little place where I know that there is going to be a a treasure chest. And there are these swordfish statues hanging in the background, and I now have an improved bubble wand that will let me do like steps across the water to get to that point. And I've also used the disc to do it, because did you know you can hop on the disc?
Yes, Annie, I do because it's most of how I've gotten through the game thus far.
Oh,
And
nice.
it's annoying
I
me. I'm over it. I'm done with it. I'm sick of precision platforming on the fucking frisbee. I'm at a point right now where I need to get the frisbee going back and forth between two like blocks and I cannot get the timing right.
There was one that took me a while, but I was so proud when it finally worked because it felt so good that I recorded it. I have a little clip for myself of my victory. So I do get that. But for this one, the disc isn't doing the job, so I'm trying to use the bubble Turns out, though, if you manage to bubble halfway over the water, you know what jumps out of the water and immediately pops your bubble?
Is it a swordfish?
It's a fucking swordfish. I should have known. The first time it happened, I yelped and dropped my Switch. Now I'm used to it. Now I'm ready for the swordfish. I just don't know how to get past the swordfish, so maybe by the next time we record, I'll have succeeded.
Yeah, I would say my biggest complaint, my biggest criticism of the game, besides it making my eyes hurt on Switch OLED, my biggest complaint would be the timing required to jump on the stupid fucking frisbee. I'm over it.
You want it to be more forgiving, perhaps?
Or just like feel right.
Ah. There is something about the jump that took getting used to for me.
It's like
whether
longer
it was
than
the
I
height.
think it will be.
Yeah. That is probably it. I also wanted to go through a few other metrics of things that I'm trying to do in the game, just so anybody else listening maybe gets a sense of where they're at, or if they can, or you guys can tell me like, huh, you haven't even gotten halfway past what's important about this game. You've scratched the surface. Kind of like, we didn't have time to be blueprint sickos about this one, even though I'm gonna go do that off screen. But
Yeah.
what else did I do? So yeah, I have 50 eggs that I found on my own. So at this point, I'll probably start looking for some hints or a map of them to try to get the rest.
You're rich in eggs.
I am rich in eggs, but not rich enough.
You're egg rich.
I need to figure out, I mean, this isn't going to make sense to you yet, but there's a floating 3D donut way downstairs on the map, and I want to know what that's about. I'm going to look into what it seems like the speedrunning things are, but I won't be doing those. I'm so sorry, but that's not something I'm capable of. There is a repeating, like, hooting noise that has been playing throughout the game, and I kind of wonder if I could possibly pinpoint what those notes are and play them on the flute, or it's just an environmental thing, but I'm suspicious.
Is this the same as like the sound that I think sometimes happens when like a ghost is in the room and you're like there for too long?
No, it's a different sound.
Oh, okay.
That's the thing.
That sound,
Also,
Maisie does not like that sound.
Your dog reacts in real life?
Yeah, she did not like it. She was freaking out.
That's very cool, actually. I mean, that sounds stressful. Like, sorry, Maisie.
It was fine.
But
I mean,
also,
I just turned the sound down. It wasn't a big deal.
it's her animal well instincts. She knows there's something wrong in the well where she should live. There are a bunch of hidden rabbits. I only have one so far, and I'm working on some others. There's 9 candles in the game to light. I have 1 left to light. I have the match. I just don't remember where the freaking candle is. That's the last one. And apparently it looks like there's like a door that will open when I've lit all the candles. So I would need to do that. Oh yeah, I also have my list. Freaking swordfish bubble. We've covered it.
You're in blueprints mode right now.
I am. I showed Emmi, and I'll post a photo of this later, but I have my like serial killer notebook open. I have various songs I've written down and faces and things that I found that correspond to notes. I also have I did write down my revelation that the touchscreen moves stuff. That's there in with 3 question marks. So yeah, that's where I'm at with the game. I'm really excited to move into these things because I'm not ready to let go of the world yet. I love moving in it. I love how beautiful it is. I love how certain items literally cast it in a new light. It has made me exclaim out loud multiple times. It has made me stay up too late, and not as unhealthily as certain other games that we have named have sometimes done. So yeah, what an experience. I also noticed when credits rolled, first off, he like listed all of the things that he used to make it, like programs, including Sprite. So, you know, he's just like me for real. But I also saw that Amir Rao and Greg Kosovin were thanked in the credits, and those are like Supergiant co-founders. So I wonder how they knew each other or anything. That was something that I meant to look up more. But that's also when I first saw in the credits, there's a section that says ARG testers and then lists a bunch of names. And I was like, oh God, like there's an ARG element. I don't know if that means the mural puzzle specifically or something else going on that I just don't know about yet, but that was there were always read the credits, kids. Is there anything that I have missed that you want to address about the game?
I had two thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
One is that we'll see if I keep playing just because I've also got my Metaphor Refantasio happening and there's a game coming out soon that I want to play. But I'm very curious about the layers and the extent to which they cohere with like an inner loop and like a middle loop and an outer loop of
Hmm.
progression because it feels kind of like I have this hunch and I'm curious to see if it will bear out that like the puzzles start as like mechanical puzzles and then grow to become like knowledge puzzles, and that it kind of like lines up with like progression in the game and like zooming out in a way that I find kind of pleasing.
You can kind of see it happening already. In
Hmm.
that I have now broken out the notebook, which I didn't need before.
Right.
There was also, oh yeah, one more revelation. There was one thing that made me yell out loud that maybe you've done yet or not. Is okay, you have the slinky, so it's possible for you to do. Did you know the map loops?
No, but it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, it looks like it has 2D boundaries, but you can go off one side and you show up on the other. So
Yeah.
at
It's a
first I thought,
projection.
yeah, at first I thought it was well shaped then. So that
Yeah.
was what was
Oh.
blowing my mind. But then but then at the end you have a chance to hop down what looks like another well, but it loops you back to the beginning, to the room where and you fall in the room where the flames are set. So what shape does that make? Because I'm really bad at putting 2D things into
Yeah, I
like a
really struggle with
3D.
that.
But
It's like a
anyway, so
mental rotation thing,
yeah, I can't.
kind of.
Somebody help me. I'm always bad at like. I think we've talked about this in Professor Layton games. If they were ever like, "This is a cube. It's a picture of a cube anyway. Tell us what's on
Yeah.
the side of the cube you can't see." I'm done for in those
Yeah.
situations. So
Yeah.
anyway, if anyone knows what shape that makes, please tell me. Otherwise, I will end up looking it up and then feeling stupid. But I'll feel less stupid if somebody who listens to us tells me about it.
The other thing I wanted to bring up was wondering if you've played Baba Is You.
Oh, I have it, but I haven't played it. But I know the premise of like the puzzling.
Yeah, I feel like there's some similarities there, and maybe it's just in the visuals of being like very, I don't want to say simple because like Animal Well is not simple, but like there's something about the pixel art that maybe it's just the blob character is like reminds me of Baba from Baba Is You, and also
Mm.
being puzzle game and also being like something where you really have to change your perspective on it sometimes. I did not get very far into Baba Is You. I thought I would really like it because people talked about it like programming, and I was
Mm.
like, I'm too stupid for this game.
Or maybe it
So I
wasn't
might
enough
try it
like programming.
again. Yeah, maybe it wasn't enough like programming. Some of my participants talked about playing Baba Is You together, so I'm
Hmm.
thinking about maybe Rob and I break it out.
Yeah, why not? I remembered another truly final tidbit. If I remember any more tidbits, we're not putting it into the show. But you know how when you save in the game, like the color scheme of the game is very like dim, moody, often cool colors, lots of like blues, purples,
Mm-hmm.
greens, especially from the plants. But then there's a bright yellow phone that uses a save point in
Mm-hmm.
various locations. I looked at that and I thought that the influence would be the Mother games because that's how you save in a
Mm-hmm.
couple of the like Mother Earthbound games. You pick up the phone and you call your dad.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you save and can check on some other things. Then in one of the interviews that I read, he mentioned that it partly comes from Resident Evil actually, which I've never played a Resident Evil
Oh.
game. I didn't know that those also involved phones. But I thought that was a nice touch and also kind of funny that that is a touch point for several different games actually.
Mm-hmm.
And it also makes me wonder, like, what would be the modern equivalent since all of our phones fit in our pocket
Mm-hmm.
now and you don't just find them places?
Yeah, I don't know. Or it's the same way like the universal save symbol is like a floppy disk. And a lot of kids are like, I don't know what, like, why is this, what's this weird square? Kids these days.
That reminds me, this doesn't have to go in here, it's a kind of a tangent. I have a bookmarks folder on my computer titled Interesting Concepts, and I was reading one of the things that I just put in that folder again last night because through a Wikipedia trawl I ended up learning about something called skeuomorphic objects, which is and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, so graphic design people can kill me if they want. But skeuomorphic design or objects are objects which mimic a previous object that has the same function, but since technology has advanced, it doesn't need to look that way. It just still does. And the example given was a candelabra that was electrified and had bulbs shaped like fire, but are not fire, obviously, anymore. They don't have to look like that. They just mimic the previous candelabras, which were candles with actual fire in them.
Like,
I don't know.
That's a perfect, like, depth of Wikipedia post.
It's really good. It was really good. I mean, why do you think I bookmarked it? I want to go back to this. I want to think of other skeuomorphic objects. Or like another example was the Minoans made really expensive cups out of silver that had rivets in them, and the rivets actually keep parts of the cup together. And then people also would make cheaper pottery imitations that normal people could afford. And the pottery imitations have little lumps of clay to mimic the rivets, but they're not necessary rivets to the functioning of the cup the way they are when they're in silver. So anyway, thinking about like the save file and the remnants of that design, I don't know if that counts as skeuomorphic specifically, because there might be other design concepts that I don't know that actually cover that more accurately, but that made me think of the cool new thing I learned. It kind of sounds like that's it on Animal Well. If you guys are looking for me, I will be at the bottom of this bottomless Animal Well. Should we talk about some games?
Yes, let's talk about some games. I actually kind of had a hard time finding games that were coming out that I wanted to talk about, just because there's a bunch that I'm interested in, but they're all in September. One that I want to talk about has actually already come out, but I wanted to bring it up because I would like to play it with you and Robin, maybe, and it is called We Junk Artists. It came out on the 6th, and it is like a illustrated multiplayer game where you use like trash and junk to make collages, and then the other players guess what it is. So it's like trash Pictionary, basically.
I love this already. I'm looking at the trailer and this is so cool.
It seems fun. Just seems fun. I would like to play it together. So I wanted to mention that just because I wanted to tell you that I would like to play it. It seems like a really fun party game option. It's like kind of surprising to me that it's not in like a Jackbox party pack already. But I also support the diversification of the party game ecosystem. This game is coming out August 10th, so it will be out already by the time this podcast is out. Annie, are you familiar with, quote, viral puzzle game Horse Magnifier?
No.
No?
What is, are you? What is this?
No, I'm not, but that's how it is described on the Steam page. And I will say, when I looked it up, it was, I think, from a game jam, and I tried to go to it on itch, and I got a too many requests error code. So I think Horse Magnifier remains quite popular. This is Horse Magnifier : the full horse. It is the full game release of Horse Magnifier. It looks very silly. It's like it describes itself as a puzzle game. I'm not super sure exactly how the puzzle aspect works, but you can like take a picture of a horse and put like different magnifiers on it to mess with the like structure of the horse kind of and change colors. So it's sort of like, I feel like part, I guess, puzzle game, part like art creation.
Explore 50 plus breathtaking levels. Magnify one creatures to your heart's content. Create your own custom levels. That's about it. I do love this.
Yeah.
Wait, did you read the about where it just says, "Do you believe horses have souls? Come, let's look inside together."
I usually try to write my own little blurbs about upcoming games, but for this one I was tempted to just verbatim read the description. So, Horse Magnifier : the full horse. Keep an eye out.
Hold on. Did you look at the system requirements?
I did not.
Go onto the Steam page and look at the system requirements, please.
System. That's not helpful. I don't. Did you look at the Mac OS system requirements?
No, I didn't go to the Mac
They're
one.
different. So the system requirements for horse magnifier for Windows are an OS of horse rating system. The processor is a horsessor. The graphics are hyper horse graphics. Mac OS, the OS is green apple flavored cube. And the graphics are equine.
I'm guessing that this has very low requirements, so there's no need to actually tell you what they are.
Yeah, hopefully I can, Either it's on Steam Deck or I can play it on my school laptop. Don't tell IT that I'm magnifying horses on my laptop. Next is The One Fish, which I imagine is either a play on One Piece, because I've just been watching One Piece, or The One Ring. This comes out August 12th. We love fishing games. What if you could fish with friends? It is a co-op fishing game. Looks cute.
I like this. It does look cute. It'll be in early access.
Yes. So I guess it comes to early access August 12th. Then my last one comes out August 19th. It is called Dream Cards. It is another roguelite deck builder. The visual style looks interesting. It's hand-drawn. We'll see how the humor pans out. Humor could be grating, could be really funny. It is like built around a day-night cycle where you build your deck during the day from cards that are like people that you know and like things that happen to you during the day, and then they get kind of remixed into a dream scenario during the night. You're trying to use the deck to beat a nightmare. But I think that the structure of it being like this like normal stuff during the day and the way that things get all weird and show up in your dreams is kind of fun.
I also just really like the visual style here.
Yeah.
The kind of glowiness of certain things. I like this. It's cool. Battle inner demons.
Yeah, it sounds like maybe there's some stuff about like uncover your trauma through exploring your dreams. Very psychoanalytical. That's all I have for games. I have other games that we'll talk about next time when we're closer to September.
Gotcha. Thank you.
That's all for today.
Well, till next time then.
Bye!